Hi everyone, Emily Teacher here, and today we're going to be reading The Trail of Tears. The original inhabitants of what is now Kentucky and Tennessee were an industrious people who lived mainly by hunting and farming. They were called Cherokees by the Europeans who first made contact with them. The Europeans had settled along the East Coast in the early 1600s. These first meetings between European traders and Cherokees were friendly, but were to have devastating consequences for the Native Americans later. The Europeans brought goods for trading, it's true, but they also brought smallpox, a disease that had been unknown in North America before their arrival. This disease left the body covered with sores and was often fatal. In 1745, a smallpox epidemic struck the Cherokee people. It killed more than half the population, and that was just the beginning of the Cherokee people's woes. So, the Europeans made first contact with Cherokee people, and they were very friendly at first between the traders and the Cherokee people. But there was smallpox that the Europeans brought over. And this disease was not known to the Cherokee people. It didn't exist in North America before that time. So they had no way of treating it or fighting against it. So many, many people died. It said it killed more than half of the Cherokee population. That's a lot of people. So let's see what else happened that was not very good because the Europeans came to the Cherokee people. The United States government recognized the Cherokee Nation as a separate country and acknowledged its right to sign treaties or legally binding agreements with other countries. In treaty after treaty, the Cherokees gave more and more of their land to the United States government. In return, they gained the right to evict anyone who settled illegally on the remaining land. But settlers ignored these agreements. They continued to move on to Cherokee land in great number. The United States government did not even pretend to be impartial in the disputes that arose as a result. The appeals of the Cherokee leaders fell on deaf ears. The theft of their land continued unabated. By 1828, the Cherokee Nation was 1/10 the size it had been 100 years earlier. Okay, so now we have the United States government, right, and the Cherokee Nation. So they the United States government allowed the Cherokee Nation to sign treaties. So the government would ask for Cherokee land, and in return, the Cherokee people were allowed to evict anyone who was illegally on their land. So if new people came without Cherokee people's permission, they could kick them off. But the people who were coming didn't listen to those agreements they had. And the United States government um, didn't even pretend to care about it, right? It says the appeals of the Cherokee leaders fell on deaf ears. So the United States government didn't listen to their problems and they didn't solve any of those issues. So their Cherokee people's land was being stolen from them. In 1835, an agent of the United States government persuaded 20 Cherokees to sign one final treaty. According to its terms, the Cherokees would get $5 million for leaving the last of their land and moving almost 1,000 miles west. The Cherokee signers had no authority to act for the entire Cherokee Nation, but this fact was brushed aside as irrelevant by those in the government who wanted the land. So the United States wanted more of the Cherokee Nation's land, so they found 20 Cherokee people and had them sign this treaty saying that they would leave all the rest of their land and move away. But these 20 Cherokee people didn't have the right to sign this treaty, but because the United States wanted the land, they didn't care. The Chief Justice of the United States declared the agreement a sham. His opinion infuriated President Andrew Jackson, who replied, "The Chief Justice has made his decision. Now let him enforce it." Precisely 2 years after the signing of the agreement, on the orders of the president, 2,000 heavily armed United States soldiers arrived on Cherokee land. Heavily armed means they had lots and lots of weapons. They drove the Cherokee family from their homes. Nearly 20,000 people were forced to trek more than 900 miles west into what is now Oklahoma. They went mostly on foot. It has been estimated that about 4,000 Native Americans died on the journey, which became known as the Trail of Tears. In a sense, though, the Cherokees had traveled an even longer and even more sorrowful trail, a journey in time that began when the unsuspecting Cherokees first greeted the Europeans as friends. So, because of this greediness that the United States had for the Cherokee land, they made many of them, over 20,000 people, walk more than 900 miles, and many of them died. So, a very sad history of the relationship between the Europeans that came as friends and what happened to the Cherokees because of that through the United States government. Thank you for reading with me today. We do have links related to each article. If you want the link related to this story here, you can find it down in the description below.